What's up everyone, it's Adam from Life of Adam, and today I'm back with a brand new lifeguarding video. This one's gonna be extremely useful, especially for those people who are either taking the lifeguarding course or about to take the lifeguarding course to get you prepared for the summer so you can lifeguard and have a killer job. So if you guys are new to the channel, I make a bunch of lifeguarding tip videos about how to pass the course, how to pass all the pre-tests, how to get a job interview, get promoted, everything you need to know. So definitely consider subscribing and liking the video if you're new to the channel. And also I posted a Q&A video, I think a week ago. Definitely comment whatever question you have, because in a future video, I'm gonna be answering them all together and giving you my best advice. So the topic for today's video is how to pass the CPR mock exam. Now, when I bring this up, a lot of people are like, wait a second, I thought the CPR test was only like the written test at the very end. I didn't realize you actually had to like perform CPR on dummies and do rescue breathing in front of the instructor and you get evaluated. I don't know if you know this, but as a lifeguard instructor, someone who teaches lifeguard certifications and gives them out, if they don't feel confident in your ability to perform CPR, do rescue breathing, and do all the procedures correctly, they will not allow you to proceed unless you get it down. So this takes place towards the end of the course, but it's very important because it's a one-on-one setting. They give you a bunch of scenarios and you have to execute them correctly and adapt in order to proceed with the rest of the course, which is like the final exam to get your certification. So now let me tell you all about it. I'll basically tell you about my experience, exactly what happened in my course and what it was like. So there's a group of us waiting in the hallway. One person would go into like a classroom with the instructor, one at a time, and they basically would have dummies on the ground. They would have like a child dummy, an infant dummy, and an adult. As you know, all these are different. The timings are different. The repetitions are different. The breathing patterns are different. So definitely make sure you know the differences between a child, an infant, and an adult, especially when you're doing your CPR. So what they do is they give you the scenario. They tell you if they have a pulse, they don't have a pulse. They do have a pulse and they're not breathing. Basically, you got to know which leads to which. So one of the most helpful things you can do is kind of make like a little table or like a little tree on a piece of paper or on your computer, basically saying, okay, if the victim does not have a pulse, they're obviously not breathing, meaning you have to do CPR. Or if the victim has a pulse and they're not breathing, that means they could be choking and you could do rescue breathing, etc. So they'll basically provide you all this information during the course as you learn it, and they'll give you like specific pages of the textbook, or they'll give you sheets of paper like they did for me, showing a diagram of all the different things you need to do. So let me get back to the exam. So they give you a scenario. The number one thing you have to do, everyone makes this mistake, I don't know why. It's one of those things that you're worried about what you're physically doing that you just forget about this, and that is making sure the scene is safe at the very beginning. Because if the victim, let's say there's like electrical wires, there's a fire, there's maybe like carbon monoxide, I don't know, I'm just giving you random examples, then you don't go in there and try to assist them because you're putting yourself at danger. So definitely make sure you remember the first thing you need to do is make sure the scene is safe, and they will literally say you missed a step and you'll get all confused, like, what do you mean? Like, I thought I was supposed to tell this person to call 911. Everything gets mixed up. As long as you remember, you survey the area, make sure the scene is safe. And then you can approach them, tap them on the shoulder saying, ma'am, are you okay? Sir, are you okay? And you can go through your progressions. Now, make sure when you're counting, when you're doing assessment, when you put your ear to the victim, you're checking the chest to see if there's any breathing, make sure you count out loud, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. You check for pulse and breathing, it's around 10 seconds, but make sure you count out loud. You aren't mumbling, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know what I mean? So you wanna kinda exaggerate it to make sure that you're doing it okay. Then they'll basically tell you, they'll say, okay, this victim is not breathing. This victim does not have a pulse. You should immediately flip a switch in your mind saying, okay, then I have to proceed with this. Now, one of the tricky things that they will do is after a while, they'll give you a scenario where you have to use the AED and you have the pads. They're pretty lenient about you taking these AED like out of the case and stuff, but when it comes to putting the pads on the victim, they're very specific. So make sure you put the pads correctly, especially for an infant, it's different. You don't put 2 of them on the chest, you put 1 of them on the back, especially if it's a small infant or a small child. So those are the things you'll learn, but you just gotta remember AED pads, if it doesn't seem right, you're probably right. If you can't fit 2 pads on the dummy, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't right, I have to put it on the back. So just make sure you take your time in that regard. You press the on button, you press the on switch, you make sure you tell everyone to back up when it's scanning or it's doing its shock, and you just listen to the AED. So now one of the things a lot of people mess up on is after the AED like shocks the dummy, you're confused of how to proceed. Like, oh, do I check for pulse and breathing again? Do I continue CPR? You wanna make sure that you listen to the AED and the instructor. Most likely you'll end up resuming CPR just for like a couple seconds. They won't make you go the whole way of just doing CPR for forever, but what they will do is make sure that you're doing the right thing after the AED. So what most likely is gonna happen, it happened for me, it happened for a lot of people who've taken the lifeguarding course, the first scenario they give you is most likely gonna be rescue breathing. And as you're doing rescue breathing, after like a couple of rotations, they'll say, okay, you notice that there's something blocking the airway when you do the finger swipe and all that, and then it will evolve to you doing compressions. So the second example will most likely be on either a child, an infant, or they might just stick with an adult, and they'll have you do CPR, and then after a couple of rotations, they'll say, okay, you need to use the AED has arrived, so you can use the AED. They'll also ask you all of the reasons to stop CPR, so make sure you remember them in your head, like AED has arrived, someone of higher training arrives on the scene is unsafe, all those things. You gotta remember them. They'll give you a list. It's one of those things that they really hammer in, so you'll be completely fine. After you show a strong understanding, you say all those reasons, you do all the scenarios, they'll say, okay, you're good. They might critique one of your timings or hand positions or whatever, but that's the majority of it, and then you're good to go. Take the exam at the end, and your strong understanding from the mock test will translate to the exam, so you'll do really well. Now, I have videos in the past about how to practice this, but one of the ways I practiced was actually using like a pillow. I took a pillow off my bed, brought it in the living room, and just pretended it was a victim, and just came up with the scenario in my head, like, okay, the scene is safe, the victim has a pulse, but it's not breathing, and then I started doing rescue breathing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Definitely like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and comment down below if you have any questions. I appreciate all the support. I'll see you guys in the next upload. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.